Assembling the Rec Room Master's sit-down pedestal. Shown here are all of the parts and tools required for assembly. Step 1. Lay the right side of the base of the cabinet on a soft surface. Insert the wood dowel pins into any holes that are not through holes. When done, there will be a total of 8 dowels installed. Do not install any wood dowels into the holes next to T1. Quick tip: when inserting the metal cross dowels in the rest of the video, make sure that the slot is facing upwards. The slot must also be aligned with the holes on the side of the panel. If needed, you can adjust the position of the cross dowel with a flathead screwdriver so that it is perfectly aligned with the hole. Next, install 2 cross dowels into the side panel as shown here. After that, insert 6 cross dowels into panel B5 as shown here. You can now insert panel B5 onto the side panel. Notice that the side panel is edged with the corresponding number on each cross panel. It is very important that the side of the B5 panel with 3 holes faces the front of the cab as shown here. These extra holes will be used to mount the cabinet doors. Next, install panel P3 into the corresponding pins on the side panel as shown here. You can now insert 2 cross dowels into panel B1 and insert it into the corresponding pin on the side panel. Notice that the cross dowel faces towards the edge of the side panel. In this step, we will be installing 2 door latches on panel B2. First, lay the panel with the edged panel number towards the floor. Next, screw both latches into the pre-drilled pilot holes. Notice the orientation of each latch. The rolling wheel on the right latch faces the right edge of the panel, and the rolling wheel on the left latch faces the left edge of the panel. Using the 4 provided screws, secure the latches in place. Quick tip: the latches have some room for adjustment front to back. If after the doors are installed, you find that they are not closing properly, feel free to adjust the position of the latches until they work as desired. You can now insert panel B2 onto the side panel. Face the side with the edge number towards the top of the side panel, and face the edge of the panel closest to the latches towards the back of the side panel, as shown here. In this step, we will be installing the accessory lid hinges onto panel P2. First, lay the panel on a flat surface with the edged number facing upwards. Then, secure the hinges into the pilot holes using the provided screws. There are 4 screws for each hinge. When done, insert 2 cross dowels into the holes shown here. We will now install panel P2. Face the side with the edged number towards the front of the side panel and the hinges towards the top of the side panel. Then, insert it into the dowel pin shown here. Make sure that panel P2 is resting on top of panel P3. For this next step, install 8 wood dowel pins into the left side panel as shown here. Do not install any wood dowels into the holes next to T1. Next, install 2 cross dowels into the side panel as shown here. After that, place the left side panel over the top, look underneath and align the pins on the side panel with the holes on the cross panels until all the pins are in the correct holes. You can now secure the left side panel using 4 60mm bolts as shown here. Do not over tighten the bolts. For this step, rotate the base of the cabinet 90 degrees to its upright position. It is very important to keep pressure on the unbolted side as there are no bolts securing it in place. Insert an additional 4 60mm bolts on the right side of the cabinet. Once again, do not over tighten. We will now install the accessory shelf. Install 4 dowel pins at the desired height and then drop the B6 shelf panel into place as shown here. For this step, we will install panel B4. First, insert 4 cross dowels into each of the holes as shown here. Then, face the edged side towards the inside of the cab and secure the panel in place using 2 60mm bolts on each side. We will now repeat the same steps with panel B3. Again, insert 4 cross dowels into the holes and secure the panel to the cab using 2 60mm bolts on each side. For this step, lay down the cabinet doors with the pilot holes facing upwards. Notice that each door has 2 pilot holes on each corner that are facing towards the outside, and an additional 2 pilot holes towards the top of each door that are facing each other. We will start by installing the 2 catches for the push to open mechanism. When installing the catch on the left door, make sure that the opening on the catch is facing right, and when installing it on the right door, make sure that the opening is facing left. In other words, they should be facing each other. Use the 4 provided screws to secure them in place. This is what they should look like once properly installed. Next, we will install one hinge on the bottom of each door using 2 black screws per hinge. Next, while holding the door at an angle, insert the previously installed pivot hinge into the frontmost hole on panel B5 on the base of the cabinet. You can now install the top pivot hinge on the door. Insert the hinge into the hole on panel B2 as shown and secure it to the door using 2 hinge screws. Once done, repeat the process on the other door. To test the doors, make sure that the latches are in the open position. If needed, adjust the front to back position of the latches as mentioned earlier in the video. After confirming that the doors are working properly, you can use the included nails to further secure the latches in place. We will now assemble the top portion of the cabinet. For this step, insert the 4 metal cross dowels into the holes on panel P1. Then, with the edge side facing left, align the straight edge of the small side panel with panel P1 and screw it into the top hole using a 60mm bolt. Notice the matching P1 label on the side panel. Repeat these steps on the opposite side. This is what it should look like once assembled. Next, place the P1 panel with the attached side panels on top of the cabinet. You can now secure the assembly to the rest of the cabinet using 4 60mm bolts, 2 on the right side and 2 on the left. We will now assemble the TV mount. Insert 2 metal cross dowels into each of the small square brackets. Face the side with the cross dowels closest to the edge towards the back. Then, secure each bracket to panel P1 using a 60mm bolt for each one as shown here. Next, join 2 P6 panels together. Face the holes that are closer together towards the bottom and the 2 holes that are further apart towards the top. Then, secure the 2 panels to the square brackets we installed in the previous step using a 60mm bolt. Repeat these steps a second time for the additional 2 P6 panels. Finally, secure all P6 panels to the B4 panel towards the bottom of the cab using 4 60mm bolts. For this next step, we will install the accessory lid door. First, rest the lid on top of the cabinet. Then, push the hinges into the cutouts on the lid. Finally, screw each hinge into the lid using 2 screws per hinge. If you wish to install the included vinyl overlay for the lid, peel back a small section of the vinyl, cut a piece of paper backing, then align the vinyl with the edge of the lid and peel back the paper as you smooth out the vinyl. You can easily reposition the vinyl if needed, as the material is very forgiving. Next, we will attach panel P7 to the P6 panels using 4 60mm bolts as shown here. We can now install the TV onto panel P7 using the 4 provided bolts and washers. To do this, rest the TV on top of the cabinet while securing it onto panel P7 using the 4 bolts and washers. Next, install 4 wood dowels into the holes closest to the center on the top of the cabinet. For this next step, we will be installing your pre-assembled Xtension controller. To do this, drop the cables into the cabinet, align the controller with the 4 dowel pins, and push down until flush. Finally, secure the controller to the cabinet using the 4 large head 60mm bolts. It is very important not to over-tighten these bolts to avoid damaging the plexiglass overlay. Congratulations, you have just assembled your Xtension sit-down pedestal. And now, it's time to play.